I stood in our bedroom doorway, holding two boarding passes I'd found in Richard's jacket pocket. Same resort, same dates, different name. The woman flying first class to our dream anniversary destination wasn't me. She was 28 years old, and she called my husband Sir at the office. My name is Catherine Walsh, though everyone calls me Kathy. I'm 72 years old, and I've been married for what I thought would be 50 beautiful years. I'm speaking to you today from my home in Portland, Oregon, where the rain hasn't stopped for 3 days, which somehow feels appropriate. Before I tell you what I did about those boarding passes, I'd love to know where you're all watching from. Drop your city or state in the comments. There's something comforting about knowing I'm not alone in this, even if we're miles apart. Now, let me tell you how the man I gave half a century to decided that our golden anniversary wasn't worth celebrating, but a week with his assistant certainly was. Richard and I met in 1974 at a community college dance. He was studying business administration, and I was working toward my teaching degree. He asked me to dance to The Way We Were, and I remember thinking he had kind eyes. We married 2 years later, in a small church ceremony with 75 guests. My dress cost $89. His suit was borrowed from his brother. We built a good life together. I taught third grade for 33 years. Richard worked his way up from sales associate to regional director at a commercial real estate firm. We raised 2 children in a 3-bedroom house with a maple tree in the front yard. So we had mortgage payments and parent-teacher conferences and family vacations to Yellowstone. We had anniversaries marked by dinner at nice restaurants and thoughtful cards. Our 25th anniversary, Richard surprised me with a weekend in San Francisco. We walked across the Golden Gate Bridge and ate sourdough bread by the wharf. For our 40th, we went to New York City and saw 3 Broadway shows. I remember him holding my hand in the taxi, telling me he couldn't imagine 40 more years with anyone else. That's why, when he sat me down 6 months ago to discuss our 50th anniversary, I was already excited. I'd been secretly looking at trips to Italy. We'd always talked about going to Italy together. Rome, Florence, the Amalfi Coast. And I had Pinterest boards full of trattorias and cobblestone streets and sunset views over Tuscan vineyards. Kathy, I need to talk to you about our anniversary, Richard said one evening in March. He had that serious tone he used for important conversations. We were in the living room. I was doing a crossword puzzle. He was pretending to watch the news. I've been thinking too, I said, smiling. I know we said we'd do something special. That's just it, he interrupted. I've been looking at our finances, and with retirement, with everything uncertain, I think we should be more practical this year. I set down my pencil. Practical. We're not kids anymore, Kathy. At our age, we should be thinking about saving money, not spending it on expensive trips. What if one of us needs medical care? What if the market crashes? We need that cushion. He sounded so reasonable, so responsible. That was always Richard's strength, wasn't it? Being the sensible one, the one who thought about the future while I got caught up in sentimental notions like celebrating 50 years of marriage. But it's our 50th, I said quietly. We've been planning this for years. And we'll celebrate here. We'll have a nice dinner. Maybe invite the kids. But spending $10,000 or $15,000 on a trip we don't need, that's not wise anymore. I felt something crack inside me, but I nodded. Because that's what you do after 50 years. You trust, you compromise. You believe that the man you've loved since 1974 has your best interests at heart. If you really think that's best, I said. He reached over and patted my hand. Actually patted it, like I was a child who'd finally seen reason. I knew you'd understand. This is why we work, Kathy. We're on the same page about what matters. I went back to my crossword puzzle, but the words blurred together. 7 down. Betrayed. 7 letters. I couldn't focus enough to figure it out. The months passed. May turned to June. June turned to July. Richard was busier than ever at work. He'd come home late, claiming he was mentoring someone new at the office. Young talent needs guidance, he'd say, loosening his tie. Can't just throw them to the wolves. I'd serve dinner at 8:30 instead of 6. I'd listen to him talk about quarterly projections and market analyses. I'd clear the plates while he checked his phone, smiling at messages he never shared. Our anniversary was August 15th. I'd circled it on the kitchen calendar in red marker. As the date approached, I kept hoping Richard would surprise me. Maybe the whole saving money speech was a ruse, and he'd actually planned something wonderful. Maybe he'd walk through the door with plane tickets and that crooked grin he used to have when we were young. 2 weeks before our anniversary, Richard announced he needed to go on a business trip. Emergency conference in Miami. 4 days, middle of August. Terrible timing, he said, but unavoidable. That's right around our anniversary, I pointed out. I know. I feel awful about it. But work is work, honey. We'll celebrate when I get back. I promise. Something in his voice didn't sit right. It was too smooth, too rehearsed. But I pushed the feeling down because doubting your husband of 50 years feels like doubting yourself, doesn't it? The night before his trip, Richard was in the bedroom packing. I was in the living room, pretending to read a book about perennial gardens. My mind kept wandering to that Italian villa we'd never see together, the anniversary that would pass unmarked, except for a quiet dinner whenever he got back. I heard Richard's phone buzz from where he'd left it charging in the kitchen. Normally I wouldn't look. In 50 years, I'd never once gone through his phone. But something, call it intuition or fear, or the universe finally giving me a sign, made me walk over to it. The message on the screen was from Amber, office. Can't wait for Miami. Just 3 more days until paradise. You're right. The ocean view suite sounds perfect. Love you. My hands started shaking. I set the phone down carefully, like it might explode. Then I picked it up again and scrolled through their messages. Weeks of them. Months of them. Good morning, handsome. Counting down until August. The resort confirmed our couples massage. Thank you for making me feel so alive. I found photos. Her in a red bikini, asking if he liked it. Him sending her pictures of sunset views from the resort website with captions like, "Soon, baby." There was an email confirmation. 2 first-class tickets to Miami, departing August 14th. Oceanfront suite at the Coral Paradise Resort, 7 nights. The same resort I'd bookmarked on my laptop 3 months ago when I was still naive enough to believe we'd go there together. I stood in our kitchen with 48 years of wedding photos on the wall behind me, holding evidence that my husband was taking a woman young enough to be our granddaughter to the vacation he said we couldn't afford. Richard walked in, saw me holding his phone, and froze. Kathy. Miami, I said. My voice sounded strange, distant. Business conference? Let me explain. You're taking her to Miami, to the beach, for our anniversary. He had the decency to look ashamed, but only for a moment. Then something harder settled over his face. Defensive, almost angry, like I was the one being unreasonable. This just happened, he said. I didn't plan it. Amber and I, we just connected. She makes me feel young again, alive. When's the last time you made me feel like that? I stared at him. This man I'd cooked breakfast for almost every morning for 50 years. This man whose mother I'd cared for in her final months. This man whose hand I'd held through 2 cancer scares and a heart procedure. Get out, I said quietly. Kathy, be reasonable. Get out of this house right now, or I'm calling the police and telling them there's an intruder. He grabbed his suitcase, already packed for his trip with her, and left. I heard his car start. I heard him drive away. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, perfectly still, while something inside me transformed from hurt into something much more dangerous. Clarity. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I opened my laptop and started researching. Private investigators, divorce attorneys, the legal definition of marital assets. By sunrise, I had 17 browser tabs open and 3 pages of handwritten notes. But I kept coming back to one thought. Richard wanted to celebrate at a beach resort? Fine. He'd get his celebration. I called my son James first. He's a corporate attorney in Seattle. Mum? It's 6 in the morning. Your father is having an affair with his assistant. He's taking her to Miami tomorrow for our anniversary. I need your legal advice, and I need it now. There was a long pause. Then, I'll be on a plane tonight. Don't do anything until I get there. My daughter Sarah called me an hour later. James had told her. Mum, I'm so sorry. What can I do? Help me plan a party, I said. A golden anniversary party your father will never forget. Sarah, bless her heart, didn't ask questions. I'm on my way. By the time both my kids arrived that evening, I had a plan. It was bold. It was calculated. It was possibly insane. But as James read through my notes, he started laughing. Actually laughing. Mum, this is brilliant. Legally questionable in some areas, but technically within your rights in others. Are you sure you want to do this? Your father told me I don't make him feel alive anymore, I said. I'm about to make him feel very alive. Here's what I learned in those frantic hours of research. Richard and I had a joint bank account with substantial savings. Oregon is an equitable distribution state, meaning marital assets get divided fairly, not necessarily equally. More importantly, I learned that the Coral Paradise Resort had a very specific cancellation policy and a very accommodating event coordinator named Patricia, who was appalled when I told her my situation. Mrs. Walsh, Patricia said when I called, I have a mother. I have a grandmother. What your husband is doing is despicable. Now, I can't cancel his reservation, but I can tell you that we have a gorgeous ballroom available that week. How do you feel about hosting an intimate gathering? How intimate are we talking? Well, our standard event package accommodates 50 to 60 people. We could do a lovely golden anniversary celebration. Dinner, champagne, the works. And our ballroom has floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the exact section of beach where the ocean view suites are located. I smiled for the first time in days. Patricia, I think you and I are going to be great friends. The next morning, while Richard was presumably boarding his first-class flight with Amber, I was at my bank with James. We withdrew half of our joint savings, which was legally mine to withdraw. Then we went to see a divorce attorney James recommended. She was a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. Mrs. Walsh, I'm going to be honest with you. What you're planning is theatrical, possibly cathartic, but it won't affect the divorce proceedings much. Oregon is a no-fault state. I'm not doing this for the divorce, I said. I'm doing this for me. For 50 years of being told I was the problem. For every time he made me feel like I was too old, too boring, too much. The divorce is just paperwork. The party is personal. She smiled. Then let's make sure you're protected. I'll start the paperwork today. Over the next 3 days, Sarah and I worked like women possessed. We booked flights to Miami. We ordered a custom cake. We hired a photographer. We contacted Richard's entire office, including his boss, under the guise of planning a surprise anniversary party. Would they like to attend? All expenses paid? Most importantly, would Amber's parents like to come celebrate their daughter's success at the company? 37 people. RSVP'd yes. I bought a dress. Not the sensible knee-length dresses I usually wore, but a floor-length golden gown that made me look like exactly what I was. A woman who'd earned every one of her 72 years and wasn't apologizing for any of them. On August 14th, while Richard and Amber were checking into their ocean view suite, I was checking into a standard room 3 floors up with my children. We spent the evening preparing, printing photographs, writing place cards, coordinating with Patricia, who was enjoying this far too much to be professional about it anymore. Mrs. Walsh, I've worked here 15 years, and this is the most satisfying event I've ever coordinated, she said. Your husband ate dinner at our seafood restaurant tonight. He ordered the lobster, $58. He told the waiter it was a special occasion. It certainly is, I agreed. August 15th, our 50th wedding anniversary. I woke up before dawn and sat on my balcony, watching the ocean turn from black to grey to pale blue. Somewhere below me, Richard was sleeping next to a woman who wasn't his wife. He probably felt clever, alive. It like he'd gotten away with something. He had no idea what was coming. The party was scheduled for 6 o'clock that evening. Beach formal attire. Sarah had sent the invitations to Richard's colleagues with strict instructions. This was a surprise celebration. Do not tell Richard Walsh. Meet in the Coral Ballroom. Bring your appetite for justice along with your appetite for prime rib. I spent the day getting ready. Hair, makeup. That golden dress that cost more than my wedding dress did in 1976 and was worth every penny. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked powerful. I looked done with being dismissed. At 5:30, James knocked on my door. Everyone's here, Mom. Are you ready? I've been ready for 3 months. Let's do this. The Coral Ballroom was stunning. Patricia had outdone herself. Golden tablecloths, centerpieces of white roses and gold ribbons, a small stage with a microphone, and those floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the beach, where guests could clearly see the ocean view suites below. Richard's colleagues were already arriving, confused but intrigued. His boss, Mr. Henderson, greeted me warmly. Catherine, what a wonderful surprise this is. Richard didn't mention you'd be here. What room is he in? We should get him. Oh, we will, I promised. First, let me make sure everyone has champagne. At 5:55, I asked Patricia to call Richard's suite. She put the phone on speaker so I could hear. Mr. Walsh, this is the front desk. We have an urgent matter regarding your company's corporate account. Could you please come to the Coral Ballroom immediately? Your CEO, Mr. Henderson, is asking for you. I could hear confusion in Richard's voice. Henderson is here? At this resort? Yes, sir. In the ballroom. He specifically requested you. I'll be right there. While we waited, I looked around the room at the people who'd come. Richard's colleagues, his boss, Amber's parents, a nice couple from Tampa who thought they were celebrating their daughter's work success. Sarah and James stood beside me, my fierce protectors. And in the corner, the photographer I'd hired was already documenting everything. This is the moment I need you to do something for me. If you're enjoying this story, if you're as angry as I was, if you want to see where this goes, hit that subscribe button. Because what happened next, well, it's something I'll remember for the rest of my life. The ballroom doors opened. Richard walked in wearing resort casual, khakis and a polo shirt, looking around for his boss. Amber followed 2 steps behind, uncomfortable in her sundress, sensing something was wrong. Richard's eyes found Mr. Henderson first. Then they scanned the room, seeing his entire office. Then they landed on me, standing at the center of it all in my golden dress, holding a microphone. The color drained from his face. "Hello, Richard," I said into the microphone. My voice echoed through the ballroom. "Happy anniversary." "Kathy, what is this?" "This," I said, gesturing around the room, "is our 50th wedding anniversary party, the one you said we couldn't afford. The celebration you told me wasn't worth having. I decided you were wrong." Amber tried to back toward the door, but Sarah stepped in front of it. My daughter, defending her mother. I'd never been more proud. "Ladies and gentlemen," I continued, "thank you all for coming to celebrate 50 years of marriage, 50 years of partnership, 50 years of trust. Or at least, that's what I thought we were celebrating until 2 weeks ago, when I found these." I nodded to James, who pressed a button on his laptop. The projection screen behind me lit up with text messages, Richard and Amber's text messages. "Can't wait for Miami. Paradise awaits. You make me feel so young." Someone in the crowd gasped. Mr. Henderson's face went from confused to horrified to furious in about 3 seconds. "Richard here decided that our anniversary trip was too expensive," I continued, my voice steady. "He told me we needed to save money at our age. Be practical. But apparently first-class tickets and ocean view suites are perfectly practical when you're traveling with your 28-year-old assistant." "Mrs. Walsh, I can explain," Amber started. "Oh, honey, I don't need you to explain anything," I said, not unkindly. "You're 28. You don't know any better yet, but you will. Probably around year 49 of your marriage, when someone younger makes your husband feel alive." I turned back to Richard. "You told me I was boring, that I didn't make you feel alive anymore. Do you know what I think? I think after 50 years of cooking your meals and raising your children and being faithful when I had plenty of opportunities not to be, I earned the right to be boring. I earned the right to be comfortable. I earned the right to expect the same loyalty I gave." The room was dead silent, except for my voice. "So here's what's going to happen," I said. "These kind people from your office are going to enjoy a lovely dinner that I paid for with my own money from our joint account. They're going to eat prime rib and lobster and celebrate the fact that they work for a company that, thanks to Mr. Henderson's expression right now, probably won't employ cheating executives much longer." Mr. Henderson nodded slowly. "You're absolutely right about that, Catherine." "Meanwhile," I continued, looking directly at Richard, "you're going to go back to that suite you booked and pack your things. Divorce papers will be served to you tomorrow morning. My lawyer assures me that your little vacation here will be Exhibit A in our proceedings. The photographer in the corner has been documenting everything for the last 15 minutes. Say cheese, Richard." The photographer's flash went off. "You can't do this," Richard said, but his voice was weak. "I already did. Oh, and one more thing." I pulled an envelope from my clutch. "This is from your children. Go ahead, James." My son stepped forward, his voice hard. "Dad, we're not children anymore. We can see exactly what you are. What you did to Mum, the woman who sacrificed everything for this family while you built your career, that's unforgivable. Don't call us. Don't come to our homes. When the divorce is final, we'll decide if we want a relationship with you. Maybe in another 50 years, if we're feeling generous." Sarah added, "And you should know that Mum's been documenting every shared asset, every bank statement, every investment. You wanted to save money. Hope you saved enough for a good attorney." I walked down from the stage and right up to Richard. Up close, I could see he was trying not to cry. Good. You know what the saddest part is? I said quietly, just for him. I would have forgiven an affair. I would have gone to counseling. I would have fought for us. But you didn't just betray me with her. You betrayed me every time you told me I was the problem. Every time you made me feel like I was asking too much by wanting to celebrate 50 years. Every time you chose her and told me it was my fault you did. Kathy, I'm sorry? No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. I took off my wedding ring and set it on the nearest table. 50 years. I gave you 50 years. I hope she was worth it. I turned back to the crowd. Now who's hungry? Dinner is served. And just like that, Richard and Amber fled the ballroom. We heard the elevator ding. We heard it descend. Then Patricia started playing music, and servers began bringing out food, and Richard's colleagues began offering me hugs and apologies and assurances that they'd had no idea. Mr. Henderson pulled me aside. Mrs. Walsh, I'm horrified. Richard is suspended effective immediately pending a full investigation. We have strict policies about supervisor-employee relationships. I know, I said. I read your employee handbook online. Very thorough. He actually laughed. You're remarkable. I'm sorry this happened to you. Don't be, I said, accepting a glass of champagne from a server. I'm not the one who just destroyed 50 years, a career, and a reputation in a single evening. He is. We ate dinner. We toasted to new beginnings. Amber's parents apologized profusely, mortified by their daughter's behavior. Richard's colleagues told stories about working with him, and I realized none of them respected him much anyway. He was seen as competent but arrogant, capable but unkind. As the evening wound down and guests began leaving, Sarah hugged me tight. Mum, you're my hero. I'm just someone who got tired of being dismissed, I said. James added, the divorce should be straightforward. With his affair documented and his breach of company policy, you'll be fine financially. I was always going to be fine, I said. That's what he never understood. I don't need him. I never did. I chose him. There's a difference. That was 3 months ago. The divorce was finalized last week. I got the house, half of everything else, and my dignity back. Richard was fired from his job after the company investigation revealed he'd used company funds for some of his dinners with Amber. She left him 6 weeks after Miami, when she realized being with a disgraced 72-year-old man wasn't quite as appealing as being with a powerful executive. I heard through friends that he's living in a small apartment now, trying to rebuild his reputation. I don't wish him ill, but I don't wish him well either. I simply don't think about him much anymore. As for me, I'm going to Italy next month. Florence, Rome, the Amalfi Coast. Just me, a good book, and 50 years of freedom I'm finally claiming for myself. Sarah and James are meeting me for part of the trip. We're celebrating family, real family, the kind that shows up. I turned 73 last week. Sarah asked me if I felt old. I told her I've never felt younger. Isn't that funny? It took losing 50 years to finally feel like my life was beginning.